accessories come in different shapes and sizes. There are some that are delicate and out there and just make this very little tiny impact, but there are larger ones that kind of make or break it. In this video, we're going to be talking about the kind of medium to large size accessories, which includes the neck accessories, belts, and gloves for spring summer 2026. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Design or Design. My name is Maria and this channel is all about runway analysis, and let's get started. We don't have a sponsor, so make sure to leave some comments, share this video, like it. If you're not already, please do subscribe so not to lose me, because I think I'm the only channel that does this. And we'll be starting with the neck accessories. The first one is the classic one, the tie. We see it quite a lot, and we have been seeing it on the runways for quite some time. Now we have different iterations of tie trend, but definitely it's not going away anytime soon. We have Coach here with a detachable tie that is just pinned almost like a brooch. We also see it in Burberry with little bit of pins or tie holders. We also see this in Gucci, lots of formal wear for sure. I love Ferragamo. They used it as a pocket square accessories. I love that idea. And there's a lot of more interpretation of the wearing of the tie in the real world. When we look at the social media, we have people wearing it just around the neck, not even tied at all. Some people wearing it as a belt, some people bedazzling it with so many brooches. Brooches actually another trend that's really happening, and we do see some examples of this on the runways. But if you haven't seen my previous video, make sure to check it out because brooches were there. Anyways, Thom Browne had so many striped ties and the whole thing was striped. So it's a great example for you guys to try out. Maybe mix matching the prints when you're wearing tie, having kind of two different stripes going on at the same time. Might be busy, but consider having one thick stripe and the other tiny, so it's not going to be overwhelming. Or maybe just having some buffer between them, maybe like a white shirt and then the blazer is a stripe and the tie is a stripe. Anyways, let's move on to Lentino. Many examples there. We also see it in Copenhagen Fashion Week and more vintage styles in Versace. I quite like them, and here are some examples of those brooches and tie accessories. Of course, there are plenty of really regular ties, but I think this is the sign for you to try out and bring some interesting patterns and prints to your outfit by a nice cute statement tie accessory. We also see some not so put together outfits, more casual outfits with those ties, uplifting them a little bit. Ties are there to hide your buttons, but what if you don't do that, and actually some fun with that. We also see some ties that kind of dissolve and disappear into the outfit by the use of identical color of the shirt underneath, and we see it from several shows like Off-White, Calvin Klein, and I believe there are some more shows like that. Maybe it's a very thin pinstripe tie with the pinstripe shirt, but then they're going into different directions. Anyways, let's move on to bows. Yes, another great neck accessory for spring summer, and we love it. It's like a pussy bow. It might be just a little rope bow. It does not really matter. I love the Ralph Lauren having an accent of color as a bow. The more I say it, the less it makes sense. Okay, the bow format, Dior was another big one with having more stiff bows like the classical bow ties. We also see them in less of a bow, more of a little scarf around the neck. In Coach, there were lots of garments that had that exact thing on the dresses. And let's move on to scarves. Okay, so I know spring summer is not the time when we think about, oh, I should buy a scarf. Yes, exactly. But we do see a lot of very flowy, very light scarves, like here in Celine, going around the neck. Elise Sabo's more of a thinner one, Maison Margiela here as well. And of course, you might be the one living in Africa or Australia, where the seasons are different from everybody else, so it might be a good fit for you. Anyways, we see some of the sashes even on some runways. Louis Vuitton had these more of a chunky, almost cable knit thing happening, and we are going into more of a skinnier tie, which is much more manageable for spring summer. Yes, the skinny scarf has arrived. It's been with us for several seasons now, and it's not going away anytime soon. This trend was developed somewhere in the 1920s, but was reemerged in the early 2000s with the indices, fashion, and styling. And it goes well with the bohemian style, as well as more of a sleek look with minimum bulking. Use of it will create a subtle elegance to any outfit and making it a little bit more glamorous, highlighting the neck in a very ladylike aesthetic. It might be the nostalgia from the Y2K, or it might be just its own thing. It's a great way to add a little pop of color, like I mentioned with the ties, or maybe texture or print. And it's one of those things that's very low effort, but really high impact. We see lots of designers having these skinnier scarves, like here we're watching the Burberry show that has the early spring feel to them. Roxanda here, more of the really tiny, almost as if they took a belt from the garment and just strapped it around. Off-White also had several of these, and sometimes they were paired with a brooch that kind of held the scarf with the long two tails, pairing it more of a street style version with that, which is a very interesting twist. Vitesse had little tiny scarves, more like chokers, I would say, than anything. Anna Sui was another big supporter of this, bringing it into the 70s. Miu Miu brought us the cravat, the little scarf around the neck underneath a collared shirt or a sweater. Very rich uncle vibes, you know, but it's picking up, and I've seen a lot of stylists use this, and that's what I'm doing right now as well. Is it working? I don't know. They had quite a lot of pattern to them. We also see this in Giorgio Armani, Bottega Veneta, more in the singular colored ones, and I quite like it. For the early spring, just a little bit of wind protection from the elements, and you're set. We also see more of a bandana versions of that, kind of wearing it outside of the clothing from several designers, from Etro, Bottega Veneta, and a few more. Tod's was another big supporter of this. Think about the colors of it. It's close to your face. Think if that color matches you well or not, and then go on from there. Because we don't want to put a color that's not our color into our portrait zone. Coach, basically the entire show had more of a smaller scarves, almost like a handkerchief. It's like really tiny, and it's almost just a choker, but in a fabric format. We also see some really cool ones from Alexander McQueen, more like a little corset for the neck, very interesting. We also see some detachable colors from Bottega Veneta in that woven leather, Moschino as well. I quite like these. As you can see, they were styled obviously that there is a detachable, and it's not even worn as it's supposed to. And we have some scarves in the hair. For some reason I added it here. And we also see some really heavy accessorizations of the neck in some shows. Alexander Wang was one of them. We also see Ulla Johnson with more of the feathers situation happening. Quite like it, but I think it would get really dirty from all the makeup that you might be wearing. But the feathers are in like this off color. Next one, we see lots of stylization of like sweaters or long sleeve shirts around the neck. Nothing new. We have seen this before, but it's a great example of how you can wear your clothes that you already have and just rock this trend. And surprisingly to me, most of these long sleeve shirts were quite heavy in knit and they were quite bulky. But we also see some of the shows pairing it on the hips, almost like a belt. And that takes us to the belts. And the first one we're going to be talking about the belt formats that were popular, and then the stylization maybe. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. All right. So the first one is the skinny belt. Yes. Again, just with the skinny scarf, we have a skinny belt, and it is a revival from the Y2K that was popular for about 10 years. There are several reasons that this might be coming back. First one is the minimalist revival. Clean lines, subtle hardware, quiet luxury aesthetic. The Y2K remix, of course, as I mentioned, but a little bit more elevated. Not a lot of sparkles and etc. And finally, is just a really functional thing. It gives polish without adding the bulk. So think about the miniature clasp or hidden hardware altogether. For petite frames, skinny belts prevent overwhelming your silhouette. For curvy shapes, use about an inch wide belt, so don't go too thin, to cinch your waistline without cutting into your curves. If you're much taller, then experiment with a very long tail. That way it won't look out of place and it will work with all the space that you have while working with your height, not against it. But we will be talking about those tails in just a little bit. Okay, so when I say skinny belt, it's about an inch or thinner belt. It is quite elegant, very nice and not out there. Tom Ford had super thin belts and even layered them sometimes. Celine, again, with mixing the casual and a little bit dressier silhouettes together, quite like it as well. Sometimes they were worn with very wide pants, like really large trousers, which gave this playful comparison of the two, which is quite fun. We also see a lot of these in Balenciaga show with just a little buckle, nothing special. We also see this in Acne Studios. Mugler had them on dresses. I think it's a really good one when you have a very simple dress that just needs a little bit of accessorization and you don't want to go too heavy. This is an example of that. Just put a little belt that's either the same color as the garment, or maybe it's a silver or gold one, or if you want to add a little bit drama, maybe a colored one, but I wouldn't do that. Anyways, we also see this in Courageous. Again, a little bit more sportier, modern vibe, and they had it on the widest part of the model's hips, which will attract more attention to them. So if you do want to create more volume in there, go for it. We also see them, of course, on the waistline. This is my favorite way of wearing a belt. I'm wearing one right now, although you can't see it, but I feel cool, okay? We also see this in Victoria Beckham, again, with the two-piece suits, having the skinnier belt carrying the pants. We also see this in Attico, more of different prints in them, having maybe a little chain on the side. See, there's no really bright versions of that. Versace, yeah, maybe a little bit bright. Toga, we also see them having almost rope belts, but we'll get into that again very soon. And yeah, what should I talk about when I don't have enough words, but I have too much footage to show you? Really good question. That is something I ask myself every single day. Ropes, here we go. I said it and I'm delivering it right now. So Balmain was a big show of having those skinny ropes around. We also see this in Isabelle Marant, maybe having a little bit more buckling, a little bit more bohemian feel for sure with these two, of course. There were other examples, less bohemian. Giorgio Armani, still bohemian to be honest, but you can see the menswear and women's wear had them both. Pino had that, Simone Rocha also had it, Ashlyn Spring had it with a little pendant situation. Calvin Klein was big on it, and we're seeing more of the leather ropes. If before it was like an actual woven rope, Calvin Klein sometimes matched it to the outfit. Sometimes it was almost like an accent, but still really cool. And you can always use that belt to put around your neck as like a scarf rope situation. Gabriela Hearst, once again with more of a bohemian style of those belts, but yet sometimes very chic ideas. Tory Burch, again, pairing it to the color of the outfit. Some had more of a pendant situation happening, which is really interesting. Okay, now the complete opposite spectrum of the belt size, and it is the ultra thick belt size. Yet another trend that is coming from the early 2000s, and probably we've seen that throughout the fashion history, of course, as it resembles a more modern corset. Maybe it's coming back because of the 20-year cycle of it being popular then, and now it's being roughly estimating, not counting the COVID years, 20 years. I feel like we're in the moment where people really love comfort, and with comfort comes oversized wear. And a wide belt is the piece that kind of gathers it all up and creates some kind of a shape. Also, the lower rise, or I guess low to mid rise, is coming back, and I feel having this wide belt, it just creates a perfect symbiotic relationship of highlighting those hips. But personally, I do love to wear belts on my thinnest part of the body, which is the waistline. And as I mentioned, it is a corset, a modern corset for us, because it keeps our figure up. Because of its width, you can't really bend a lot. All right, Anna Sui here with those belts around the hips. Tibi here had more of the clear, almost like a skirt thing. And Mise en Bourgeois, I'm not sure if that's a dress or not, but it had a clear one as well. Okay, as you're seeing, we're gradually having more thicker and thicker and thicker belts. Where will this end? I don't know. Actually, I do know, but you will soon find out. We see these amazing belts from Brandon Maxwell with the cow print and the red one, and I just love them. They have this shape, so it's not supposed to be right at the waistline and below, creating more curve to you. Rachel County had several wider, sometimes they even had just a top as a belt thing. Rabana had these skirts with a built-in huge enormous belt with a huge enormous buckle. I quite like it. Okay, next one, we see a cover band on the runways. Yes, we do. I like this trend, and I'm thinking of stealing my husband's and trying something out. I don't know what will work. Maybe something interesting will happen. We also see some leather versions of it in shows like Celine, also in Nanushka, bordering a belt slash that. McQueen had a little bit of half a corset, and Vitesse also had more of like fabric surrounding it. So maybe it's a tube top that you put over top of a dress shirt, and then you just put it around the waistline. Of course, with these, it might add a little bit of bulk, and this one definitely will, having a scarf on the hips, for instance. We see it in several shows. If it's more of a silky one, sure, that will work out. But if the Louis Vuitton here, they have some thickness to them, it will add bulk. If you don't have that smaller of a waistline, maybe don't consider it, because it will just create a different shape than you probably want. Okay, next trend for the belts. Yes, I was actually thinking of making the entire video only on belts, as I had like an hour-long footage of that. So I just cropped all of the regular belts out of it, and here we go. We have 20 minutes of it. Okay, so the buckles. We see several really great shows with that. We have those rock formation things in Roberta Cavalli. We also see the Moschino with the bows, Casablanca with a little logo. Versace had really vintage, huge buckles. I quite like them. Oval Lovena also had enormous, like almost covering the entire stomach of the models, as well as more smaller ones, but bedazzled. Really interesting. Of course, we see just regular belts, but maybe the buckle is not as transparent as other shows. Katie had more of just raw element to them. Off-white, another bedazzled Y2K moment for me. That is what it takes me back to, with a crown and the wings. Interesting choice. Altuzarra had, for some reason, a male organ on there. Where did the designers look when they did that? Anyways, I did say that we're going to be talking about the long tails, and here we are. Okay, love this trend. I don't have anything long, like I'm mid-size. Like if the belt is long, it's just long enough for me to actually close it. So I am very sad that I can't just go and find a really long belt because all of them are not that long for me. And if you want to create a little bit of length to yourself, then those tails will do just that. Just like for the already tall people, it will look really good with your length that already exists. If you're a little bit shorter and you want to appear a little bit taller, like I'm trying to get all the inches I can. My husband is 6'8" and I look like a kid next to him. I'm 5'9". I'm pretty tall, okay? And I'm trying to prove that I'm tall. Anyway, so having that length, it gives that vertical line that kind of gives you a little bit of stretch, which is really cool. And it is a statement when you have it, and especially if the belt is contrasting in terms of the outfit. Although Michael Kors here with kind of very similar colors, it still looks really cool. And then they have the buckle on the end. So does the both hands have buckles? I'm a little bit confused, but they had it in several different colors with some snake print and some regular ones as well. So there's lots of choices if you're shopping. And we do see it in many shows, the higher ones as well as the very run-of-the-mill. All right, next one up is the decorative belts. Yes, I feel like for spring summer, this is what we're looking for. Maybe like a little chain, maybe a little bit of more bling like Celine here with kind of a larger buckle-esque, like the full thing is made of buckles. I like it. Valentino, we also see some beaded examples that could work as a scarf as well as a belt. Balmain, again, as a necklace or as a belt. We also see some other shows with having kind of a more natural elements to them, maybe like a little bit of shell moment. We also see lots of fringe on the runways, especially from Etro, having this bohemian thing. We also see it in some other shows that are not as well known. And yeah, Roberto Cavalli with their chains and snakes, quite love it. And yes, we still see a lot of regular belts on the runways. Maybe some of them have like little detailing with additional metal pieces. Maybe it's an interesting color, maybe it's an interesting buckle. Yes, belts are both functional and they can create a statement. So make sure to use it to your advantage, depending, of course, on your figure, on what you want to achieve with it. For instance, Tory Burch had lots of their models having the belt lowered on their hips, creating a little bit more volume. For models, it's perfect because usually the perfect model shape is a rectangular shape. And if you put that belt on the hips, then it creates a little bit of more of a visual volume. Of course, it can also be used to cinch something like a jacket or anything else. And here's another example of those lowered hips and having the buckle off-centered in Coach. Interesting, not as useful when you're trying to go to the washroom, but still interesting. Kind of bringing a little asymmetry to the outfit, which I enjoy secretly, but I'm just imagining trying to unbuckle my pants and try to go to the washroom if I really need it. And it's not that great. Anyways, also had more of a woven belt, like a braided belt with little hooks and things for your keys. What else can you put on there? Maybe like a little wallet, a little miscellaneous a la boo-boo. I don't know. All right, so the next trend is here, and it's the layered trend. We did see it already in several seasons. We see some natural elements paired with the rope that I've discussed. We also see more decorative belts with regular belts, like here in Isabelle Marant, the ropes and it's a lot. Tom Ford had just the several skinny belts paired together. Sometimes they were the same, sometimes maybe they differed by color. Some of them had a little bit of texture or print. We also see just two identical belts paired together. We also see in Etro more of, again, a bohemian trend of having very different belts and having those long tails. I really like it. So it adds more of a movement and even like a fringe moment when it's just dangling. You're walking. Sometimes maybe not the most convenient thing with that thing just flapping around. Maybe that's how men feel when they walk. But anyways, we see metals and leather combined. We see two leathers. We see Delaria here with more of a studded, more of a grungier belt. Of course, the shells. Toga had very tiny skinny belts on the waistline and then the thicker one on the actual pants, which is really interesting. Chapovalova had the really crazy stacking of their belts, even having like different garments with like them being lowered and having belts. We also see maybe like an overlap of the belts, of having this really wide belt with a thinner one around, or having a little baggie with a very long strap that's round around and around. We also see some shows deciding not to even close all of their belts, like in Louis Vuitton and Versace. We have come to the gloves. I love gloves so much, but I don't know if it's appropriate weather to be worn during the spring and summer. Maybe like the sheer ones or the lace ones, that would be very nice. But the leather, I don't know. All right, so we're starting with the opera gloves. That is the glove that is very tall. Love the Deloria here with the latex gloves and the styling with the bracelets. It's amazing. We also see Versace here with really elegant florals on there. Balenciaga was a big one with the leather gloves. And when we're thinking about gloves, traditionally, the longer the glove, the fancier the event that you're going to. So usually they were considered something to be worn in the evening occasions, like maybe to an opera or to a ball, while the shorter the glove, the less fancier the occasion. Mugler had some that actually was like a one piece with the top that they were wearing. It's either like a blazer or it's a shirt, which would be very inconvenient when you're trying to go to the washroom and trying to do your business. Yeah. Sometimes designers think that people don't go to the washroom and they're like, yeah, you'll be okay. Just don't drink water, okay? Prada was huge with gloves, and they had so many satin examples of them being nice and reflective, as well as leather, and in so many different colors. If you like color and you want some inspiration, I encourage you to watch the full video of the runways, because yes, yeah. And they had these tiny little bags that they were wearing, and I just love it so much. Yes, again, maybe not so realistic for spring, summer, more of a fall winter look. There were some that were a little bit more iPhone friendly, and they had fingerless gloves, which might be a good design idea. We also see ultra short gloves just cover the fingertips from several designers, or just a little bit short on the shorter side, maximum going up to the elbow, nothing too crazy. I feel like whenever an outfit has a glove, you're like, whoa, yeah, that outfit's fire. Or at least that's what I hope when I'm wearing it, that everybody else thinking. All right, you guys, we have come to the end of this show. Please leave in the comments a scarf, a belt. Are there gloves? Yes, there are gloves emojis. Leave one of those or all of them if you want. That way I'll know that you're cool and that you watched till the end. If you want to support this channel, all you need to do is like this video, comment something nice, maybe several comments would be great as well. Subscribe if you're not already. And if you think that this video will fall into the heart of somebody that you know, please share it with them. This is the only way I feel like I can grow. And especially that I'm making these videos so early in the season. That way you can actually go shopping the deals, like all the Christmas and the discounts, and you'll be ready for spring, summer. I want to give a big, huge thank you to some people that used the super thanks. I was not expecting it at all, honestly. If you want to check out how I dress from day to day, then I encourage you to check out my Instagram, where I share my daily outfits, what I'm wearing. It's not a lot because I haven't gone out of the house in a while, but you can see my fits, the ones that I'm wearing for these videos, but in full. Other than that, I really appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you have an amazing rest of the day. But yeah, for now, stay classy. Bye.